Hey guys, I'm going to take a look at the Glock Gen 4 both inside and out to see what's different. First, let me just make a couple of introductory remarks here. I'm aware that Glock had some startup issues with the Gen 4, so I waited a while to get one, and that may prove to be a wise decision. I've only shot 100 rounds through this one, but it was flawless. Maybe that's an indication that Glock has the kinks worked out. I sure hope so. Of that 100 rounds I have shot so far, 60 were with a Streamlight TLR2 tactical light and laser attached, and I think that was one of the problems they were having. It wasn't reliable with a light attached on the accessory rail. This is the G22, and as you can see, Glock now stamps the Gen number on the slide. That's a small thing, of course, but I like the idea. Here's a more significant change. Notice the mag release here. It's much bigger, and it's reshaped, and it's reversible. I've already switched it to the right side. That just works better for me. I do the same on my P-Series SIGs. While we're here, this isn't new, but notice the extractor that has a chamber-loaded indicator. That's been carried forward from the Gen 3 models to the Gen 4. Here's one more change, and again, it's not unique to the Gen 4, but it's still worth mentioning. This is the new front sight look. It's attached with a screw through the sight, which you would think would be a more rugged mount than the staked-on sights of earlier models. Here we see some differences on the front grip strap of 3 different models. As you see, the finger relief at the bottom of the front strap is gone on both the Gen 4 and the RTF2 model. Also, notice the texture of the Gen 4 front strap. Here are some close-up shots. I was just trying to capture the shape and the layout of the pattern. Just some various views of that. Okay, let's take a look inside now. The first thing we'll see is the dual recoil spring assembly. This is new to the Gen 4. The Gen 3 recoil spring assembly looks like this. I'm a bit puzzled by this change, as are some others. I think there's little doubt that the dual spring assembly would be more expensive to produce, and you can't help but wonder why Glock chose a more expensive part. Maybe there's some advantage to it we're not aware of. But makes you wonder, especially when the single spring has worked so well for so many years. Gen 3 and Gen 4 recoil spring assemblies are not interchangeable. The Gen 4 recoil spring assembly is larger in diameter than the Gen 3, where it fits into the end of the slide. This should infer that the hole in the end of the slide of a Gen 4 is larger than a Gen 3, so that's yet another change. The grip of the Gen 4 was reduced in front to back length by about 1/8 of an inch. In order to make the grip smaller, especially at the top, some changes had to be made inside, particularly in the area of the trigger mechanism housing. You can see some differences here. The top frame is the Gen 4 and the lower frame is the Gen 3. The significance here is that a Gen 4 trigger mechanism housing is not interchangeable with Gen 3's. Glock introduced the Gen 4 with a standard 5.5 pound connector. However, changes in the trigger mechanism housing changed orientation of the connector and, in effect, the way the trigger bar contacts the ramp angle of the connector. This resulted in a noticeably heavier trigger pull for Gen 4s. Glock's solution was a new Gen 4 dot connector. Notice in this picture the white lines that emphasize the angles of the connector ramps. The ramp angle of the dot or Gen 4 connector falls in between the 5.5 and the 3.5 pound connectors and provides a trigger pull weight very close to the Gen 3 with a standard 5.5 pound connector. You can see the dot in this picture. Unfortunately, I reversed the 3.5 and 5.5 connector, but they're labeled, so it's clear which is which. Notice the 3.5 connector has a minus sign, the middle connector has a dot, and the 5.5 pound has no marking at all. Okay, next we'll look at changes in the trigger bar. There are 3 points of interest shown in this picture. And as you can see, the picture is a wee bit busy. The 3 points of interest are the dimple on the firing pin block tab, the deeper embossed groove running lengthwise of the trigger bar, and I suspect that deeper groove is to increase the rigidity of the trigger bar. And the third thing is a bit more pronounced hook on the firing pin block tab. This picture shows another change that was made to the trigger bar. I'm suspicious the reason behind this change is to help the trigger spring last longer. As I recall, there are some issues about Glock trigger springs breaking, and it breaks at that connection point on the trigger bar. Alright, next let's look inside the mag well and see how that reversible mag release is implemented. Now this picture is kind of hard to get your bearings on, and I took this while the mag release was still on the left, so I hadn't changed it yet at this point. This is a totally different setup than the ambi safety that was introduced not too long ago and didn't work well. This is essentially a Gen 3 setup. It works on the side notches in the mags instead of a front notch like the ambi mag does. If you switch the mag release, Gen 3 mags won't work with it because they don't have a notch on each side of the mag like Gen 4 mags do. If you don't switch it, the Gen 3 mags will work, and the Gen 4 mags should work in Gen 3 guns. Well, I guess that about covers it, so I'll fade out after saying you can expect another video after I've shot the gun some more.